Hello, world singers. My name is Tyler, and this is something entirely new. Over the past 9 years, I've been behind the microphone with my co-host Brooke, recording over 200 episodes of our podcast, Cosmere Conversations, but it's 2026, so I thought I'd try something a little bit different. See, I've realized recently that I'm in a little bit of a conundrum. The podcast has given us a bunch of opportunities, including being panelists at Dragonsteel Nexus, and even got the chance to interview Emily Sanderson last year. But by far the most important thing are the relationships and friendships that I've made over these years and the capital C connections that we've formed, which brings me to the situation I'm in now, walking around my house staring at a camera. See, what I've come to realize is that if I value this capital C connection between people so much, it actually requires more of me and a couple of lowercase c's as well, which is the creation of more content. So with that in mind, I did what any self-respecting individual does: go to YouTube to find out how to make YouTube videos. Well, I certainly wish one of the first lessons was staying in frame, but unfortunately not. Instead, what I saw over and over again was how important it is to define your style. I'm a 30-something balding white guy. Never exactly going to be my strong suit, so I'm hoping with some creative license I can do something else, like borrow from those with better style than myself. So I tried to ask myself, if I could make videos that I would want to watch, what would they look like? Who would I be inspired by? Who would I straight up copy and just make videos like they do? And one name kept coming back up over and over again. It's probably the director that I've watched their movies the most often, and certainly the one that I've gotten a lot of laughs out of, and that's... He has this one scene early on in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World that I think about probably daily. It's a wonderful example of Edgar Wright's style that he's crafted over decades in the entertainment industry. And it begins when Scott Pilgrim gets a phone number from his crush, Ramona Flowers. He looks down.
Wow, girl number.
See you at the show, Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, hey, it's tonight at the...
Hey, you totally came.
It's one of my favorite transitions of all time. I love the sound design. I love the way that the characters are moving. I love the camera dolly. I think that it is just a perfect example of everything that Wright does so well, and it is far beyond anything that I am capable of myself. Now, Wright's style and transitions have been the subject of many video essays, and video essay is not necessarily the style that I'm going for here, or one that I think I could do particularly well. Instead, what I think might be valuable is to take a look at the words of someone much smarter than myself. About 9 years ago, the YouTuber NerdWriter1 had a fantastic video all about Wright's use of transitions, and he had this to say. In fact, I think a story is a lot like an argument. It has to be persuasive to work. So if a story has to be like an argument and there needs to be some element of persuasion, then what is the argument that I am trying to make here? What is the story that I am trying to tell? Let's see if we can do one of those Wrightian transitions to move us to a different style of YouTube video, the talking head, which has the benefit of being able to be done from the comfort of inside my house. Do you hear that? That's the sweet sound of control. Controlling the lighting, controlling the audio. No trucks backing up, no dogs barking, no neighbors sawing. What are they sawing? Nobody knows. You don't need to know, but it's happening right now. I'm going to be completely honest, to capture everything that you've seen so far, it took me about a day and a half of filming and editing. There were so many small tweaks and problems and things that I needed to fix, needed in quotes there, but I took that time because I was trying to copy the style of Edgar Wright, and certainly he takes time to make sure that the shots are perfect and that every aspect of what he desires is exactly what gets to the eventual viewer. My camera, though, is obsessed with changing autofocus to look at the background, and I don't necessarily have anything going on in the background. There's not secrets that are somehow in the back of the video that the camera is trying to capture, but that I am trying to make sure that nobody sees, or at least only the people who are really paying attention see. And these are the challenges that are constantly slowing me down and requiring far more time than I actually have to devote to this project that is now consuming my life. To put a finer point on this, I think we should go back to Nerdwriter as he breaks down a single scene from Scott Pilgrim and the transition from one scene to another, and just how much work it takes and requires.
This transition is all about movement to the right. It kicks off with Anna Kendrick looking to camera right, which is the direction of the movement, but she's also looking at her brother through the split screen. Her split screen is keyframed off to the left, and so is Scott Pilgrim's. But Wright has cleverly positioned him left in the frame, so he can bring in the unseen right-hand part of the shot to extend the dolly wipe. And the right of that frame is the armchair, which wipes across to reveal the next outdoor setting, and the onomatopoeia letters of the school bell aid this transition into a shot that continues the motion by actually dollying to the right. If you were to diagram out this transition, it would look a little like this, and it gives you a better sense of just how much care is put into a handful of frames.
But there must be a reason for all of this, right? Why go to all of the time and trouble and dedication just to create something that most people are not going to care about at all, and the only people who really care about it are going to spend decades on YouTube breaking down the shots and decisions that you made endlessly. There must also be a reason why I'm so interested in it, and like why I want to somehow copy this style. I think it's summarized best when Nerdwriter says this: "This delicate balance is achieved through transitions that are often lyrical, like a kind of visual poetry in the most unlikely place." Using actual poetry to define visual poetry is something that you can find on other YouTube channels rather than here. But it is that visual poetry that is so compelling and that drives the story forward, moving us shot by shot from one bit of the action to another until you can eventually arrive at catharsis and the full understanding of whatever it is the director is trying to show you. What I think is obvious is the amount of time, dedication, energy that goes into producing the subtle transitions that we see in Hollywood features or on TV, Netflix, on the daily. And it's just easy to overlook as the viewer how difficult all of this work. But nobody's really expecting that I am able to produce at the caliber, quality of a famous Hollywood director. But what about someone who is more well-known for YouTube videos? What if I just take the people that I enjoy watching, replicate exactly what they do, and deliver it with a little bit of Cosmere flair, and all of a sudden we have a successful video? It's just like 2 pancakes and a lift, and voila, we have something great to show. And if that's the case, then certainly one of my favorite YouTubers from the last 5 or 6 years has been Nathan Zed. If you haven't had the opportunity to watch his videos, they are immaculate and just incredible works demonstrating exactly what the medium is best at. I think it would probably be best to just show rather than tell in this circumstance. So let's just roll the clip.
Our love is a lie, and so we begin, foolishly laying our hearts on the table.
I can't do this.
Okay, wait, hold on.
He makes 24 cuts in 24 seconds. He has 8 different scene transitions in a way that is creative and unique and is demonstrating thought and purpose and a tremendous amount of effort. That is what I would like to convey more than anything else, is that he is putting so much work into everything that he does. The video itself is 10 minutes long and it never stops with that pace. It is delivering every single second, if not every single half a second, new information, new visuals, new audio. He is demonstrating a caliber of creation that is truly beyond what should be expected from any single individual on the internet, and yet he's delivering it over and over and over again. And the videos that he makes are compelling and thoughtful and bring a unique aspect, a unique voice to the medium. I, again, strongly encourage everyone to go check it out. It's going to be a far more entertaining video than this one, because what I've come to realize is that I simply do not want to work that hard to create something at such a high caliber, at such a high level. The amount of dedication is so honorable. It's so inspiring in many ways that I realize that I could never be that. I think what we need to do is go back to the little 50-50, because I have utterly failed at defining my own style, realizing that my style is never going to be all that great or compelling to watch. And when it comes to borrowing the style of those who are more talented than myself, I realize that they work much harder than I do and are willing to put in the time and dedication to make something truly fantastic in a way that I simply am not. So what else do I have? What else could I possibly offer to you, the viewer? The last point that I found was to authentically speak about something that you're passionate about.
You know how long I've been waiting for this? Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
Bing.
Brandon Sanderson is a sci-fi and fantasy author that has just recently surpassed 50 million books sold, and the majority of those are coming from the Cosmere series that our podcast follows in detail. But I think what is widely acknowledged across the literary world is not so much the total number of books sold, but the pace that Brandon has been on since 2005. Being able to continually turn out novel after novel in such a productive fashion comes down to one fact, and that is that Brandon is a master of the outline. For example, in Brandon's first book, Elantris, or Elantris, if you really must. Pronunciation is kind of my thing. Brandon uses what is known as the Triad structure or system in order to bring the reader through the entirety of the novel following 3 different characters: Raoden, Serene, and Hrathen. Part 1 and 2 of Elantris have 9 triads each, making up 27 chapters total. So a triad is a single set of the 3 characters and following their journeys at the same time in the plot. Now, this might seem mildly convoluted or even difficult to follow, but the reader doesn't need to know that the triad system is in place. The plot moves and characters have interactions, dialogue is all normal. Even if the reader doesn't know the history or the use of the triad system, there is a benefit to using these types of structures. For example, it creates a pattern.
Lies.
A pattern that can be felt even if it's not comprehended. As a reader, you're moving on this path through the triad system where you're getting used to these 3 characters and learning about them as the plot unfolds. So it's Raoden, Serene, Hrathen, Raoden, Serene, Hrathen, Raoden, Serene. Now, Sanderson did later say that the use of the Triad System is not something that he's interested in returning to in the future, and that it actually created unnecessarily complex restrictions on him as an author. And that's because the Triad System, or the way that he was using it, kind of forced him to write characters into slightly unnatural situations. And so if a character like Raoden had a natural point in his story where he needed to, recover from an injury, or maybe it would be better to say recover from the realization that he can no longer recover from injuries, because, then that would require a natural break for both Serene and Hrathen too. Those types of restrictions are difficult to maintain, and they're unnecessary from a creative standpoint. But Brandon was forced to write those types of situations because of his commitment to the Triad System. So what I'm taking from that is that a format for the sake of a format isn't necessarily a good thing. It might be better to go to Brandon's most well-known book series, which is Mistborn, beginning with The Final Empire and even continuing into a second trilogy referred to as Era 1 and Era 2. It's in Mistborn that Brandon develops a format different from the Triad System, and that is the reliance or use of the epigraph, a short few sentences that start every chapter. However, the reader doesn't necessarily know who the author is, or maybe they develop an expectation about who the author of the epigraphs is, only to have that expectation turned on its head later. So the reader gets a snippet or a short burst of information in the epigraph, and then the rest of the chapter plays out. Meanwhile, every chapter is building up this anticipation, this little mystery about what exactly is going on in the epigraphs. This builds up a sense of momentum that you kind of want to know as the reader what is going on, yes, with the characters, but you also want to uncover the mystery of the epigraphs. This momentum that Brandon is creating with the use of the epigraphs continues. It builds and it builds until the reader cannot stop, until they don't want to stop. You are a leaf in the wind of Sanderson's creation. Or, as it is known in the fandom, you're in the... Now, the Sanderlanche might be different for every reader, that moment when you're hooked and you simply cannot stop. However, there is arguably one moment, one phrase, one line where the Sanderlanche begins for almost everyone. And it comes in Book 2 of the Stormlight Archive.
"What has happened to us?" Dalinar asked. "Where is our honor?" "Honor is dead," a voice whispered from beside him. Dalinar turned and looked at Captain Kaladin. He hadn't noticed the bridgeman walking down the steps behind him. Kaladin took a deep breath, then looked at Dalinar. "But I'll see what I can do."
Now, what's so incredible about Kaladin's moment in Words of Radiance is that it occurs 60% of the way through the total book. So 60% is generally not what people think of as the climactic moment of a book. But for me and for many readers, it's that moment, Honor is Dead, that triggers a feeling of, I can't possibly stop now, I have to keep going. Now, while that's an incredible feat and a cool line, what does it have to do with this specific video? What does a Sanderlanche have to do with someone who is not Brandon Sanderson? It couldn't possibly be that the desire for a format and the overall fear of creating something new would make a certain creator focus in on this concept of, at 60%, a Sanderlanche needs to begin in their creation. We already talked about that with the Triad System, right? You shouldn't have a format just for the sake of having a format, because that would require a tremendous amount of work. Some people would even begin to question, wait, were there moments earlier in the video where things clearly were shot differently, like the camera settings had changed? Did he go back and put that in just to pad some time so that there would be a specific moment at 60%? No, that's ridiculous. It was simply a mistake. Or was it? At this point, I don't know. And if I don't know, then you certainly don't know. Or maybe you do. He couldn't possibly be that insane, right? No, definitely not, because as aforementioned, this entire video is kind of about how I don't want to be doing work, which is why I ended up here in a studio instead of walking around outside doing Wrightian transitions. I think this all comes down to a question of the people that we're inspired by, whether it's Edgar Wright or Nathan Zed or Brandon Sanderson, the question of what can we do and borrow from those that we're inspired by in order to create something new? At least that's one interpretation. I guess there's an infinite number of interpretations because at this point, I don't really know why this is happening. I've kind of gotten myself worked up into this idea of a project that needs to be concluded, and now I'm doing it just so I can check something off a list that doesn't exist anywhere except for my own head. Seemingly, I've lost the point of everything. I don't even know why we are doing this. I am confused about the existence of this video, and maybe I'm confused about the existence of a lot of things. What is the purpose? What is the reason? Why are we doing anything? I think I might need another video. Thanks for being here. See you next time.